Hello, Empowered Woman. Welcome to this episode of the Empowered Woman podcast. Today, I had the pleasure of interviewing Avital Miller, who is an award-winning international keynote speaker and author, healing breakthrough facilitator, and globo dancer who inspires people to experience boundless energy, absolute happiness, and true success to live the best life possible. We talked about handling life's curveballs with what she calls the campaign You'll Never by thinking about how our challenges can help others and create impact. An amazing conversation. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Empowered Woman podcast, the #1 show on personal growth, visibility, and profit for women entrepreneurs. If you're wanting to start believing in yourself, giving yourself permission to succeed, and let your voice be heard to make an impact in the world as an entrepreneur, this is the place for you. I am so glad that you're here. My name is Marcia Spurk, and I'm your host, triplet mom, woman empowerment coach, and all things motivation extraordinaire. Welcome again, and let's dive into today's episode. Real quick, before we get on with the episode, I want to remind you that we have this month's Empowered Women Showcase coming up next week, March 15th at 3 p.m. Mountain Time. This is an event I'm running monthly to, you guessed it, showcase members of the Empowered Women School by interviewing them in a panel format, followed by a short training on empowerment marketing. Lineup this month is amazing and you won't want to miss it. Go to marciaspurk.com/showcase to register. The link is in the show notes. Hi, Avital. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited. So I always like to begin by telling everyone how I met my guest and how we came to be here today. And
Yes.
We met several months ago through our mutual business coach, Gary Barnes, who I've also had here in the show. I actually interviewed him before I started working with him. It was like I was trying to check it out and see if what I saw in the beginning was really something that I really enjoyed. And he went on to confirm that he's amazing. And whoever is connected with him is also amazing in my book. And I'm so excited that we got to meet in person not too long ago at his conference, his boot camp here in Denver. And we've stayed connected ever since. And so welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thank you so much. I feel like I resonated a lot with you when we first met. I'm not a mom. I don't have triplets. But I understand the idea of feeling like you're pulled in a lot of directions. And I am a very creative person. And that idea of just managing a lot of things, juggling it, figuring out how to balance between different things and balance between having a very feminine heart and the emotions that come up with that. And there's really just been this great calling throughout my entire life. One of my coaches called me a one-woman campaign against You'll Never. And you might relate, others listening may relate, like how many times did you come up with a great idea and people started expressing what could be the challenges with that, the doubts, where do you not have the skill set or education for that? And maybe you also started questioning your own self. And here I am talking about this balance of really working with what's the uniqueness in your life and how to still create and manifest what it is that you desire. Yeah. And when I was growing up, I was held back from my writing skills. And it's not like I was all around a student who had trouble learning, because the equivalency exams in grade school, I would get 99% in the math. I excelled in the math. But when it came to grammar, at that time, my scores were 55%. So I was having trouble putting letters together, and I had to have a special tutor. And then there I am, 3 years ago, I published my book, Healing Happens, Stories of Healing Against All Odds. It hits bestseller on Amazon, and it wins 4 awards. Wow. And this was all coming from somebody who didn't have the writing abilities. That wasn't the only time I was told I didn't have those abilities. In college, I majored in engineering, but I also majored in dance. And my dance teacher pulled me aside halfway through freshman year, like in the middle of class. The room is an L shape. So she pulls me around the L to tell me that I was never going to amount to anything in ballet.
Oh gosh.
I cried for a week. And I went to the head of the department. I'm like, what is this? And they just sort of listened to me. They didn't really do anything about it, but I loved dancing. So I kept doing it. And all this, and then here I am one day performing in front of thousands of people as the entertainment at the Miss South India pageant,
Wow.
nationally televised. I've danced and performed around the world and integrated dance in so many different forms. You know, when you come to some of my regular speaking engagements, often what I do is I take this book, Healing Happens, and this is my story of healing from an autoimmune disorder beyond what was expected, another campaign against Jill Never, but also putting together the stories of all different types of health and healing experts from all different types of disciplines, and they healed from terminal diagnoses.
Wow.
So what's their story? You know, what's their teaching, their lesson that is helping out. And when I lead this is about success strategies, and I incorporate movement, being a dancer and being somebody who learns kinesthetically, right? That's also very helpful for those of you who are speakers, those of you who are sharing or teaching, to really think about how to share with people, right? So it can approach them in their unique ways. So being a dancer helped me like incorporate the movement into that. Sometimes you'll also see me perform an actual dance with my speaking engagements, but I created a new program called How to Love and Be Loved and incorporate dance movement connection in that. And I've created spiritual dance movement programs and therapeutic ones. There's so many ways that these things have shown up in life, even when told I wasn't going to amount to anything in that area. And Marta, like, think about this. Like, we don't think about this. Oprah Winfrey, Steven Spielberg, Walt Disney, like Michael Jordan, Lady Gaga, Steven Spielberg, if I didn't say him, but all of these people were told at some point that they didn't have what it takes in the line of work that they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And the only thing they did was not listen.
Right.
They kept going forward with what they wanted to do. But imagine all of us, like, they all started out like us, and how much could we accomplish if we just keep going?
Yes. Oh, that is so beautiful. And I love the whole concept of campaigning against that you'll never, because we hear that so many times throughout life, maybe not with those exact words, but we have the naysayers, we have the people that tell us that it's not going to happen, tell us to give up. And then beyond that, we have our own inner voice that at times can be tainted by those experiences and be replaying those messages and telling ourselves, I mean, it's enough to have those people outside of us telling that. And then we go on and we tell ourselves that too. So starting with, like what you said, these people that have been successful, they have chosen to shut those things out and to instead replay the message of, no, I can, and I will. I have talents and I will do something with them, because that's all of us, right? We all have something unique, something special. And I love that you incorporate the many things that you have done in your life in the work that you do right now. Because I think that's the biggest testament of growth. At times we do certain things and we're like, this is not it. Let me move on to something else. And we may think that those experiences are wasted, right? I spent all those years getting that degree, working at that job, blah, blah, blah. And with time, if you really pay attention, you will see that everything were stepping stones. Everything contributed to you being where you are. And there's a value in sharing those stories. And it starts with you reflecting. So I love that you brought that reflection for us here, because I'm huge on looking back at the past, not to beat yourself up, but to empower yourself to see, wow, look at what I've accomplished. Look at all I've done, how far I've come in spite of all the setbacks and because of all the setbacks, because you can use them as something to propel you forward as well. And thank you for sharing some of these obstacles. I would love to hear how you got into doing what you are doing right now, and tell us a little bit more of how you work with your clients. I know you do events. I got to see you virtually speaking at the event that we met in person. And you
Yes.
shared some exercises, some movement. I love that you're so
Mhm.
passionate about that, because movement gives us energy and gives us life. So tell us more.
Yeah, yeah. So I mentioned that I majored in engineering, also in
Yeah.
dance, and I didn't necessarily have the intention of making dance a career. I did the engineering. I got a job as a program manager at Microsoft straight out of college.
Wow.
And I very quickly went, oh, this isn't for me. So 2 years after that, I actually just took off and traveled around the world,
Wow.
kind of reset. Here I was brought up in a home, like, get good grades, go to a good school, get a good job. I did it. I was like, well, now what? What's really like the purpose behind this? I really wanted to do something philanthropic that helps people. And so just taking off traveling, what actually happened was I was practicing yoga and Pilates everywhere I was. This is 20 years ago. So you can't see, I know this is audio, so people can't see my face because they often think I'm younger than I am. And so it's a whole 20 years ago that I was doing this. And yoga was like a lot of people knew about it and they were curious about it, right, in the Western world, but they hadn't all done it yet. Right now, like most people have tried yoga, and lots of people do yoga. So it was really exciting for people to find me and say, hey, would you teach me yoga? So I just went, all right, since I was approached everywhere, that's my next calling. I'm a yoga teacher. Then I quickly became a fitness director and a teacher trainer. And I was teaching 25 to 30 classes all over town.
Wow.
Right? And I was known as the Energizer Bunny. And this is where things start to change because I started to have health issues and my hair was falling out. My muscles were turning to fat. I was experiencing fatigue.
Wow.
And you can imagine, like, Marta, if you lost your ability to speak, like, how would you do this wonderful work that you do with these interviews and all of the other help that you offer people if you didn't have your voice? And so it's kind of like not having my body, not having my mind. I didn't have sight sometimes, not having my looks. And I did what most of us would do. I went to the doctor and I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder and called Hashimoto's, as well as hypothyroidism, and just told me, here's some medicine, take that the rest of your life. And it was kind of an interesting process because when you're taking hormone medicines, you're already going to be very up and down.
Yeah.
And I just thought, well, if I'm going to be stuck with this for the rest of my life, kind of like an arranged marriage, then I better make the most of this and learn more about it. And I started reading and going to all these different types of health and healing practitioners and learning, like, there's so much more to physical health that's non-physical as well.
Right.
Like, there's studies that show these connections. I'm like, look at all these areas of life that I can work on and all of these things that I'm putting in my body and my environment that could be harming me in the process. So it was a huge overhaul and that created a lot of balance. And I was still on the same dose of medicine. So I still had all these conditions. And then I started meditating. I moved into a yoga community and I was meditating regularly, deeper, more and more. And as I'm meditating more, believe it or not, and a lot of people have meditated by now, right? That was the next wave after yoga. And so you feel good, right?
Yeah.
Well, I felt worse.
Oh, dear.
And I went to the doctor. They're like, well, it's because you're overdosed on your medicine.
Oh.
They lowered my dosage of medication quite a few times. And just to see, like, how much transformation could happen beyond what you're normally explained. And with what I'm doing, somehow that's impacting these things. And then I start learning of all these other stories. I just thought, oh my gosh, these messages have to get out there. And even just the bigger concept, like I said, a one-woman campaign against You'll Never. How do you expand the boundaries or the limitations that we think are set on us?
Yeah.
How do we really get to that place that we envision for ourselves? And when when I was sick and I was getting worse and I started to wonder if I'm going to die. I wasn't there yet and no doctor said that. But when you're just getting worse and they're not figuring out what's wrong, it was easy for the mind to go there. But there was also a part of me that said, no, I see myself helping lots of people in the future. Like, I'm not going to die, because just that's not going to happen. So what can I do to help myself here? Even if I live with this, how do I live with it?
Oh, wow. That is so powerful. And especially with the concept of looking into how you are limiting yourself. And I believe that usually it takes us going through an experience like what you went through, like what you described, what many would say rock bottom in a way or another, whether it be unexpected or, I mean, all the bad things are usually unexpected, but with a disease or with a condition, for me, a lot of what I talk about with the unexpected, and I've gotten some backlash with that, was having triplets. It's not a disease, it's a blessing, but it is something unexpected and something that nobody would ever be ready for. I mean, motherhood in general, but for me, it was that loss of control, right? When you get told, hey, you have this disease, it's like, whoa. What are you telling me? You're not expecting that. And it turns your world upside down. And then you are forced into one of two directions, right? How am I going to make the best out of the situation? Since this is what was presented to me, or am I going to choose to live in victimhood and woe is me? And I love what you said, that what helped you take yourself off of the negative space of, well, then I'm going to die. Even though nobody had said that, we always think worst case scenario because we consider all the possibilities, right?
Especially when you're reading online about what your condition is.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
No, I don't recommend that. Right. It's good to do your own research, but be careful.
Be careful, because you could have lots of sleepless nights if you go down that path. I love that you said, thinking about helping people and the impact that you can have, and that you are valuable, especially with having this condition, right? Oftentimes we think, wow, this just ruined everything, and it took my life off track, and I'm never going to be able to do all the things that I dreamed of, all my hopes and dreams. And it's like, wait a second. Going back to the campaign of you'll never, and we sometimes say that to ourselves. It's like, well, how can I still achieve this and maybe achieve more, or and go in a different direction with this thing, and see this as an actual blessing in disguise, which I truly believe that our challenges are really that, if we choose to see them that way. And putting ourselves in the space of service, that has made a huge difference for me in my life and in my business, is seeing how, when I'm discouraged with what I'm doing, is thinking, but think about the people that need this right now, need this message right now. So it's a great way of tricking yourself of keeping going, right? So I love that you share that. So tell us more, how exactly you work with your clients. Do you focus mainly on people that have a condition, or that have something like what you described, or what is it that you focus on, and how can you help these people?
Yeah. Do you know, though, that probably more of my clients are entrepreneurs who I think almost everyone, like a lot of people have some minor thing going on in their body, right? So they definitely want to talk about that. But they're entrepreneurs who want to up level something in some area of their life. So believe it or not, I have people coming to me for help, definitely with their health, with having more energy, but with their relationships, with seeing their business grow, with magnetizing more financial abundance. So they're really coming in all these different areas. And what I like to say is, what I'm working with are people who see results that they know they want, and they just don't quite know how to get there. And I can come in and help them connect the dots to break through whatever could be holding them back from getting to that space. The modality that we use, I don't know if you count on to this, I actually have a number of modalities that come in now it's like a menu, and nice. It depends on either specifically what somebody is working on, which of those modalities they're interested in doing, and then what they're open to, if that makes sense. So sometimes somebody, like, they just want a private yoga practice. And they come and they work with me. They've been doing yoga for 20 years, and they learn more in one session with me than anyone else. because of having, I think, the dance major and all those other certifications in yoga, and just really taking that time, right? There's a greater level of understanding of the body.
Yeah.
That's coming in there. And then the next piece, there's the meditation that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would say to people who are interested in meditating, because I think a lot of people, they say like, oh, like I just can't meditate. I can't like sit still, calm. You just need the right techniques.
Mm-hmm.
You just need the right process to get you there. So if you are really looking for that calmness and open to it, whether you use me or a different resource, just keep looking for the right resource that's going to give you those specific tools to get there. The thing that is most interesting to people right now that they're kind of catching up on the most and getting excited about is actually the neuro-linguistic programming.
Ooh, nice.
That I'm doing with people. It feels the most approachable to the most people, and it produces quick results that people can see, right? So I do energy healing, but not everyone's as aware of what's going on and noticing the results as easily. With neuro-linguistic programming, because of the way it's designed, people know right away in a very short amount of time, a drastic amount of change that just happened with them. And we are basically like anything that holds you back from that success that you want, like that often comes from something in your wiring, like potentially way far away, or just even a sooner, more recent belief about yourself, that we basically just rewire the way your brain operates with your mind and your emotions and your body. And the way to getting there starts opening up.
I love that.
And people can see that in the sessions.
Yes. NLP is an amazing tool. I've had the pleasure of doing a few sessions with practitioners, and I know exactly what you mean about seeing a difference right away and really seeing things for what they are in a different way and being like, wow, I didn't realize that this is what was holding me back. And it's why it was holding you back, because you didn't have that awareness, and being able to put your finger on it, so to speak, helps with overcoming something that is so simple, but can be having such a huge impact in creating such setbacks. So I love that. That is great. And
absolutely.
Tell us more about, because I love the tip that you gave in terms of meditation, because there's lots of people that say that I just can't sit still. This is not for me. And it's a matter of finding a technique or finding an approach that works for you. What are some of the other tips? And since you work primarily with entrepreneurs, what are some of the other tips that you can give for somebody that may be struggling with, reaching the next level? What are some of the things that they can do and start trying out and experimenting with right now to help with that?
Yeah. Well, in terms of reaching the next level, like I would have to talk to people individually to figure out like what level are they at right now and what's going to take them to that next place. But just a couple tips for, whether you're starting or you're not finding as much success as you want. If you can be absolutely still, if you can use your willpower for the first 5 minutes of meditation, then it'll be much easier to keep and maintain that stillness after that. So it's sort of whatever energy you start something with, it continues with. So if we start with agitation, it continues with agitation. If we start with the stillness and calmness, it's much easier to continue that way. But also, I think a lot of entrepreneurs know the idea of, okay, if I want to start a new habit, do it for 21 days, do it for 3 months, and then it's easier to do later. So just imagine that too, that those first 5 minutes are part of what's going to help you maintain that habit. And I would say, like, if you're just starting, don't expect yourself to do a long meditation. You do it for as long as you enjoy it. So you may just be starting with 5 minutes. Like that may be it. Now, the other thing, and I was just working on this with one of my clients, because she's like, I really, really want, a meditation practice. And it's like, well, this happens and there's all this distracting noise. And at this time, there's these distractions. And what I said was, when I took my first meditation course, what they wrote on the board was a blank meditation is better than none. And the blank you fill in, which means a restless meditation, a tired meditation, a short meditation, and not focused meditation, like I'm sleeping meditation, that, whatever it might be, is still better than not doing it at all. Because the first stage that you're also really doing is you're developing a habit.
Right.
And so it's like, for her, it was like, well, what time can you commit to? Never mind if your environment around you is perfectly quiet, because in India, where meditation comes from, there is tons going on around you. So that they didn't get the opportunity to train themselves in quiet either.
Right.
So, only when they went up to the Himalayas, that's like a special retreat. We don't do that all the time. And so just what time of day do you know that you can be consistent with? Like, is it going to be in the morning because your day hasn't sort of come up with all these other things that happen or worn you out and you just don't want to do it? For some people who start work early or have to get kids ready, they don't want to wake up earlier to do the meditation in the morning. So that's not a good time for them. But lunchtime, when they don't have meetings, and that, like, husbands at his work and daughters at school, like, that's the time where nothing's going to interrupt me. I know I'll be committed to doing it. I'm always good at eating lunch at that time, so why don't I just meditate for a few minutes before lunch?
I love those tips, and I love the analogy of creating a habit, understanding that it takes consistency, and that it may not feel like you're doing it right in the beginning, but any kind of meditation is helpful meditation. And the whole noise and distraction, that is such a great thing to be mindful of, in thinking that where the practice originated from, people were just, and that's really where you practice stillness, right? When there's a whole lot of noise and you're able to shut that down and focus inside, then you've really mastered it. You really know how to do it. Well, and I know you said it depends, everyone's different, particular situation of trying to reach the next level. But when it comes to entrepreneurs, some of the most common obstacles or blockages that we all hear everyone talking about are like comparison, imposter syndrome, perfectionism, fear of rejection, fear of success, all these kinds of things. In your experience, what has been something that has been consistent pretty much across the board when working with entrepreneurs? And what are some of the ways that you have seen these things manifest, and what has been helpful inside the practice to help people overcome that?
Yeah. One of the things that I think people don't think about as much is whether or not they believe they are deserving of the actual success or results that they envision. Do you believe you're deserving of that? And you can go back. There's a lot of reasons for why you might not feel deserving. And sometimes it's just a matter of seeing the amount that the people in your life had growing up. And so just not creating a vision because your blueprint was created within that level of framework. But other times it could be because, like, if your mom was upset that she wasn't more successful in her line of work, that if you have the belief that if you were more successful, that would hurt her feelings. And that's also where, like, the lack of deserving. I don't want to do something to someone else. So there's a lot of areas to dive into. With that, just that aspect. Do you really believe you're deserving of something greater?
Right. That makes so much sense. And it usually has to do with your relationships, right? Am I worthy of this? Because somebody may have said, you're never going to amount to anything, right? You don't have what it takes. So then we think, well, how could I be successful if I don't have the degree, the accolade, right? Why would I deserve X, Y, Z if I don't have what these other people have? And then we get into the comparison, but it makes sense that it all goes back to this worthiness that I think all of us struggle with so much, because we tend to want to prove ourselves to others and all that mess that gets us stuck.
It's a lot of things. And it's also like where your vision is. So I think one of the things that's been really great for me, and then I'm learning to do more and more as I'm dating somebody, To actually tell my friends and my male friends too, because I date males, so I want the male perspective, like things that come up and that are happening, right? Because I didn't have like, I mean, I didn't, my parents separated when I was 3, so I didn't even have, that much of a role model as to what it could look like. And I've been dealing with a lot more challenges or things that aren't a match than I necessarily need to. And just hearing somebody being like, what are you doing there? Have somebody else like knock the sense into you, in a certain sense, to say like, because other people will often see how good you are, how valuable you are, like what your gifts are. And I'm seeing that like in terms of relationships. So I had a speaking engagement recently, and like I wasn't on the main stage, and there weren't a lot of people there, and I'm with my speaking coach, and she's like, I mean, it's fine to do that, but you realize, it's like that doesn't necessarily meet the level of where you're at in your speaking capacity. And to then start to not just to see that, but to actually command that I'm only available for this kind of thing. So I'm not as available anymore for the things that aren't a match for what my vision is.
Ooh, and that goes across the board. Business decisions, relationships, anything. It's that creating the habit and really mastering the habit of saying no. And I have a friend that she says, if it's not an F yes, it's a no. And it's hard for, most people. And I think for women, and I think depending on your personality type, to say no. And as an entrepreneur, at times you think, where could this lead me? So I'll say yes to everything because maybe this is my big break. And it's really, again, that self-awareness and awareness of your worthiness too, and of where you are. And when you were talking about sharing with friends and with people that are outside of ourselves, my goodness, that's growth right there. It's the vulnerability of sharing something and being able to hear the criticism potentially and saying, this is not for you. Right? Because we don't want to hear that. And that oftentimes that's why we don't share. Because it's like, I kind of already know. But if I tell someone and they confirm, then it's for sure. So
we have to have our own discernment, because sometimes the people in our family could be being overprotective.
Yeah, true.
Also, and keeping you from something that actually is good, and they're not quite seeing that.
Yeah, definitely. But it's that accountability too. And one thing that came to mind as you were saying that I got reminded of recently is the analogy of you can't read a label from inside the bottle. So and that's why there are coaches and mentors, right? And friends and business besties and all that stuff, so that we can talk to somebody and have that outsider's perspective that is really hard for us to have on our own. That's the goal, right? To be able to see these things ourselves faster and more easily, but we still need people, because ultimately we are inside ourselves all the time. So it's helpful to have somebody else bounce ideas off of each other. Well, I am excited to do our rapid fire and then have you share a little bit more on how we can connect with you and what you have coming up. So let me know if you're ready for me to spew out my little words here from my Empowered Woman's Path and the Engage to Serve method that I use. And I would love to hear what you come up with. It's fun to see that different people from different niches tend to have different ideas and different things that they come up with when I say my words. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right. So the first one is notice yourself.
Okay, so I just say whatever word comes up.
Whatever word or whatever comes to mind.
Without judgment about it?
Yep.
Love.
Beautiful. Next one is listen to yourself.
Heart. Breathe is the second word.
Forgive yourself.
Okay, this one's more like a visual of like this funnel of like, it's mixed with golden light and bubbles, and it just rises upwards.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's like meditation talk. I love that. Imagine this tree.
Escalation could be a word.
I love that. Next is empower yourself.
Okay, so I kind of got this this visual again, uh, of this feeling of like hugging those that are around you. Interesting to think that empowering your own self in a way that's empowering others too.
Yeah. And it goes back to what you said before, saying pulling yourself out of that dark space was, how can I help someone? That is empowering. Beautiful. Love that. And last but not least, transform yourself.
Inspire.
Yes. Love it. Well, Avital, thank you so much for joining us today. Tell us how we can connect with you. I know you have some workshops happening. Tell us more.
Yes, yes. Okay, so the first thing is that one of people's favorite programs that I lead is How to Energize Your Life, which is the 3 keys to unlock unlimited energy. So I've put those in a webinar that I'm going to invite you all on as a guest. And what this is doing is to help you instantaneously raise your energy, tap into natural resources of energy, shift towards energizing attitudes, increase helpful perceptions about life, and practice easy techniques that you can do on your own for lasting energy. So the key to gain access to the next webinar on how to energize your life is just by visiting the URL unlockunlimitedenergy.com.
Beautiful. I'll have that in the show notes.
Unlimitedenergy.com. Good ways to connect directly with me. You can email me info@avitalmiller.com. Avital is spelled like a vital. I'll be a vital component of the health and vibrancy of your life. And also on Facebook. So just look up Avital Miller.
Perfect. Well, I'm excited to have people connect with you and check out your webinar as well. Thank you so much. This was so enlightening and so empowering. I love hearing more about your story and how you are empowering other people, other entrepreneurs with your amazingness.
Thank you. It's just such an honor and a joy to be with you and then to be able to connect with your people as well.
As per usual, I hope this episode encouraged and empowered you. Don't forget to connect with Avital, and also don't forget to register and show up for our showcase coming up next week. All the links and information is in the show notes. Until next time, bye.